Today is the 5th of October 2025. The day before yesterday, I mainly spoke about the importance of maintaining mindfulness in daily activities and discussed the three different definition of the mind. Among those, I was primarily explaining the third definition. The mind as a natural state that is strange, bizarre, or amazing, or as the natural state that produces strange, bizarre, or amazing things. At this point, I spoke about the vast range of the human creativity, how there are countless forms of art, craft, skill, innovation, design, and invention that are truly astonishing and amazing, especially in this age of modern technology. We witness an incredible variety of creations, whether in architecture, engineering, digital design, animation, robotics, or artificial intelligence. All of these are nothing but creations of the mind. Behind every tool, system, or structure, there is first a thought, a mind imagine it, plan it, refine it, and finally brought it into existence. And yet, the mind itself is far more amazing and astonishing than both what has already been created and what has yet to be created. Because of this remarkable and boundless nature, it is called Chitta in Pali. I also mentioned how the mind manifests through body, speech, and thought in the form of actions, and this process, how this process is deeply astonishing. Even more so are the results of these actions, the realm into which beings are reborn, and the kind of experiences they undergo. The consequences shaped by the mind are beyond ordinary imagination. So, to clarify how the consequence shaped by the mind can be beyond ordinary imagination, I would like to share a story of a monk named Losakatissa. Losakatissa. I'm not very good at telling stories, but I will try my best. He was born in a fishing village with 1,000 homes located in the country of Kosala. However, on that very day, he was conceived in his mother's womb. All the families in the village were unable to catch even a single fish. All the families means all the thousands of the families in the village were unable to catch even a single fish. And from that day on, the entire village began to decline. While he was still in his mother's womb, the village was burned down by fire 7 times and was struck by royal punishment 7 times. Then the villagers thought, previously such misfortunes never occurred in our village, but now we are clearly in decline. Surely someone among us must be a source of misfortune or bad luck. Let us divide into 2 groups. So they divided into 2 groups. 500 families separated and went to live apart. However, wherever the parents of that unborn child went, that area declined, while the other group prospered. Again, they divided the declining side into 2 groups, and again, misfortune followed only one side. They continued splitting in this way until only one family remained. Finally, realizing that this single family was the cause of the misfortune, they expelled them from the community. Later, his mother gave birth to him with great difficulty But sadly, because of his misfortune, even his own mother abandoned him once he reached the age where could run around on his own. From then on, the child lived alone, begging from place to place. Gradually, he grew to be 7 years old. One day, the Buddha's chief disciple, Venerable Sariputta, saw him standing at the doorstep of a house, picking picking at scrap, picking at scraps of rice, grain by grain, from the water thrown out after washing a pot, just like a crow. Moved by compassion, the Venerable Sariputta ordained him as a novice monk, and later he received full ordination. However, even after becoming a monk, his misfortune continued. Even during great and unmatched almsgiving ceremonies, he would never receive enough food to fill his stomach. How he would get only just enough to stay alive. Now you may wonder, how could that be? At the moment when Losakatissa received just a spoonful of porridge in his bowl from a single donor, the bowl appeared full, but in reality it was not. People would say his bowl is already full, and so they would stop giving and pass him by. Some even said at the very moment of offering, the porridge seems to disappear from people's hand before it reached his bowl. Was what a misfortune! And this strange misfortune didn't happen only when with porridge. It was the same thing with other kinds of food as well. Later, Losakatissa became a fully enlightened one, a worthy arahant. But still, his fortune remained the same. He never once had a stomach full of food, not even after attaining arahantship. This continued until the very last day of his life. When the final day arrived, the Buddha's chief disciple, Venerable Sariputta, realized through his knowledge. Today, Losakatissa will pass away, and until now he has never eaten to his full. Moved by great compassion and wishing to offer him a proper meal on his last day, Sariputta went on alms round with him to the city of Savatthi, but as long as he was accompanied by Losakatissa, not only did they not receive food, they didn't even receive greetings or salutation from the devotees. Seeing this, Venerable Sariputta gently told Losakatissa, please return and wait at the hall. As soon as Losakatissa left, the devotees came out of their homes, paid their respect, invited Sariputta into their houses, and began preparing offerings. The Sariputta said, please take this food to Losakatissa. However, those who carried the food forgot the instruction on the way and ended up eating the food themselves. See the strength of the past karma. After the meal, Venerable Sariputta returned and asked, did you get the food? Losakatissa simply replied, I will get it. Hearing this, Sariputta's heart was filled with sense of urgency and compassion. Without delay, he went straight to the palace of King Pasenadi of Kosala. Since it was already past midday and monks cannot eat food after that time, the king filled Sariputta's alms bowl with chatu madhu. Chatu madhu means a medicinal mixture made from four sweet ingredients. Venerable Sariputta then brought it to Losakatissa, and fearing even this might disappear, he personally held the bowl as he told him to eat. Only then did Losakatissa finally have stomach full of Chatu Madhu. That was the first and last time in his life he had eaten to satisfaction. Now you may wonder what wrong he had done in the past to deserve such misfortune. It is said that long ago, during the time of the Kassapa Buddha, there lived a monk in a village monastery. He was by nature diligent, virtuous, and fully devoted to the practice of insight meditation. At that time, an Arahant monk came to the same village where the resident monks lay supporter lived. Upon seeing the serene and noble demeanor of the visiting monk, the layman was deeply inspired. With great reverence, he took the monk's alms bowl, led him into his house, respectfully offered him food, listened to a brief Dhamma talk, and paid homage and said, "Venerable Sir, please go and stay in our village monastery. I will come to see you later in the evening." The noble monk accepted and went to the monastery. Upon arrival, he paid respect to the resident monk and sat to one side. The resident monk looks older than the visiting monk. The resident monk asked, "Did you receive alms food today?" The visiting monk replied, "Yes, I did." "Where did you receive it?" "At the home of a lay supporter in the nearby village." At once the resident monk realized that he had received food from his own regular supporter. I think from that moment, jealousy quietly took root in his mind. After a brief exchange of words, the visiting monk went to his uh, assigned room and spent his time abiding in the peaceful bliss of jhana and fruition attainments. That afternoon, the lay supporter went to the monastery. After paying respect to the resident monk, he asked, "Venerable Sir, there was a visiting monk earlier today. Did he come here?" The resident monk replied, "Yes, he did." "Where is he now?" "He is staying such and such room, in such and such room." So the layman went to the visiting monk, paid homage, and sat down respectfully. After listening to a Dhamma talk, he invited both monks to come for the next day's alms meal and then departed. But the resident monk, observing this, thought to himself, This lay supporter has changed. Now that this visiting monk is here, he won't show me the same respect and regard as before. With this thought, resentment and jealousy arose in his mind. He told himself, from now on, I must act in a way that prevents this monk from staying here any longer. And so the resident monk began to ignore the visiting noble monk completely. He refused to engage in conversation or offer even the slightest courtesy. But the Arhat, the noble monk, perceiving the resident monk's state of mind, reflected silently. Oh, how unfortunate! This monk does not understand that I am free from attachment, whether to families, supporters, or gain. But without making any complaint, the noble monk quietly left and returned to his own room, abiding in the deep peace of jhanic absorption and liberation he had already gained. He had already attained. It's even more interesting to hear what the resident monk did the next day. Okay, the next day, the resident monk struck the gong with a nail and even knocked on the visiting monk's door with it, making sure to make a point. Then he went alone to the house of the lay supporter. The layman welcomed him, took his alms bowl, offered him a seat, and asked, "Venerable sir, where is visiting monk?" The resident monk replied, "I do not know what kind of monk he really is. I struck the gong and knocked on his door. He didn't respond. It seemed that having eaten the fine food in your house yesterday, he's fallen into a deep sleep. Yet you show such respect to a monk like that." But meanwhile, the Arhat visiting monk, knowing it was the proper time for alms collection, had already bathed, dressed, taken his robe and bowl, and then rising into the air by his psychic power, had gone to another place for his alms round. The lay supporter unaware of what truly happened, and thinking the visiting monk might be unwell or exhausted from trouble, and compassionately prepare a bowl of milk rice mixed with ghee, honey, and jaggery, and said to the resident monk, "Venerable sir, perhaps he is tired from his journey. Please kindly take this for him." The resident monk silently accepted the bowl, but dark thoughts fill his mind. If this monk receives and eats this delicious milk rice, even if I try to force him out by the neck, he won't go anywhere. What should I do? Thoughts kept running through the mind. Then he thought, if I give this to other people, if I give this to other people will notice and realize what I have done. If I pour it into the water, the ghee will rise to the surface, and that too will reveal my action. If I throw this milk rice onto the ground, crows will flock to eat, and people will see, and then they will know what I did. So where can I dispose of it without being noticed? With this intention, he looked around and found a patch of burnt ground. There he scraped aside the ashes, placed the milk rice into the pit, and then covered it again with the ashes, hiding it completely. After doing so, he returned to the monastery, but when he arrived, he saw that the visiting monk was gone. He thought to himself, surely the visiting monk saw into my mind and left for another place. O Buddha, just for the sake of food, I have committed such an unwholesome deed. But it was already too late. As this thought arose, a deep sense of remorse and mental agony overwhelmed him. From that very moment onward, it is said, he became like a hungry ghost, consumed by inner torment, and not long after he died and was reborn in hell. There he suffered for hundreds of thousands of years due to that unwholesome action. After exhausting that heavy Kamma action, As a residual effect, he was reborn for 500 times as a yakha demon. Okay, 500 lifetimes. Not one, not two, not three, but 500 times. And not even once in those lives did he obtain enough food to fill his belly. Only once during one of their births he consumed warm waste, and that was the only time his stomach was ever full. Following that, he was reborn for another 500 lifetimes as a dog. Again, only once did he eat his full, that time from vomited rice. For the result of these lives, he never once ate to satisfaction. Thus, from the time he committed that unwholesome action across countless rebirths, only in 3 lifetimes did he receive enough food to fill his belly. The first as a yakha demon in one of his 500 lifetimes. As a yakha, he managed to fill stomach just once by consuming warm waste, an impure substance from the womb. The second as a dog in one of his 500 lifetimes. As a dog, he ate to satisfaction only once from vomited rice and deluded and unclean. And the third as Bhikkhu Losakatissa on the very last day of his final life, he received Chatumadu from Venerable Sariputta, who gave it with great compassion. So from this story, we can understand that the actions done through body, speech, and mind, all of which originate from the mind, and their results are beyond ordinary imagination. The realms into which beings are reborn and the kinds of experiences they undergo all are shaped by these actions, and they too are beyond ordinary comprehension. That's why Buddha said, mind precedes all things. They are laid by the mind, made by the mind. If one speaks or acts with an impure mind, then suffering follows, just as the wheel follows the foot of the ox pulling the cart. So the story vividly illustrates the truth of Kamma. Kamma is inescapable and precise and completely unbiased. Beings are owners of their Kamma, heirs to their Kamma, even though Losakatissa, who ordained, Losakatissa was ordained and later he became an arhat. He still had to experience the bitter fruits of his past karma, severe deprivation across many lifetimes. His final liberation did not erase the effect of past action already in motion. No matter how far we progress spiritually, past intentional actions bear fruit unless and until they are fully exhausted. Again, this story tells the mind that is defiled does harm to oneself. The resident monk harmed no one more than himself. His defilements like envy, resentment, and pride not only harm a blameless monk but destroyed his own peace and future births. And this story tells that jealousy, attachment to gain are dangerous. The resident monks' envy and possessiveness over his lay supporter led him to commit a grave offense, depriving a noble arhat of food out of spite. From minor seed of jealousy grew an action that resulted in hundreds of thousands of years of suffering in hell and future painful rebirths. That's why meditators, even small unwholesome thoughts, if not checked, can grow into harmful deeds. So we must guard against defilements. And one more interesting thing to reflect on in this story, and that is, the story is how was it possible for such a misfortune monk to become enlightened, fully enlightened. So the commentaries explain that when he was the resident monk, before he met the visiting monk, he was fully devoted to the practice of insight meditation. Because of that strong commitment to insight meditation, he eventually attain liberation. So that is something interesting in this story as well. So that's why meditators who are practicing here should be fully committed in meditation practice. So this is a story mentioned in Jataka tales about how amazing, how bizarre, how strange the mind itself is, the its manifestation through body, speech, and thought as action, definitely as action, and the results of those actions, the the realms that in which to which the the beings reborn, and the experiences they experience are also amazing, also bizarre, strange, and the root reason of this is the mind, because the mind is defined as a mental state that it is it is bizarre, strange, amazing, or it is the mental state that produces strange, bizarre, and amazing. So that's why, by understanding that even small unwholesome thought, if not checked, can grow into harmful actions. So by understanding this, may all meditators, may you cultivate your mindfulness and wisdom to protect your mind, the mind which is really bizarre, strange, and amazing. And you definitely need mindfulness. So may you be able to cultivate mindfulness and wisdom. May you be free. May you free your mind from all forms of unwholesomeness, and may you be free from all sufferings.